I mean, whenever humanity tries to picture the afterlife or, the dwelling place of the divine, we tend to default to the exact same visual vocabulary, don't we?
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. It's always this very um, vague serenity.
Right, like a soft focus painting filled with cloudy realms and, figures in white robes just casually strumming harps. Just a general sense of floating, I guess.
Yeah, it's very peaceful, ethereal. And to be perfectly honest, it's incredibly blurry.
It is. It's super blurry.
And I think we project our own exhaustion onto the divine, right? Like we want the afterlife to be this gentle, uncomplicated release from the heavy, mechanical, sharp-edged reality of our physical world.
Right, because the human mind just craves rest.
Exactly. So we imagine a heaven that is essentially, an eternal, comfortable waiting room.
A waiting room, yeah. But then, and this is why we're here today, then you step into the world of ancient apocalyptic literature, specifically the visions of Enoch.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that completely flips the script.
It violently rips that soft focus painting away because the landscape Enoch describes is not a place of rest at all.
Not even close. It is highly mechanized,
Terrifying, actually.
awe-inspiring. And it's built with this staggering, almost oppressive architectural precision.
Which is just so fascinating. So welcome, everyone, to this custom-tailored deep dive into the cosmos. We are appropriately titling this exploration Grand Design.
I love that title for this. It fits perfectly.
Right, and we are just thrilled you're here. I want you to picture yourself sitting right here with us like you are the third person in the room as we embark on this incredible journey today.
Because today's mission is, well, it's ambitious.
Very ambitious. We are going to reconstruct the universe exactly as it was witnessed by one of antiquity's most mysterious figures, Enoch.
We're going to extract the most fascinating visual and structural details from his intensely vivid descriptions, looking at heaven, hell, and the multidimensional beings that populate both.
And we're going to look specifically at the mechanics of this vision, right? Like how these realms actually operate, what these entities physically look like.
Yeah, and the extreme physical properties of the spaces they inhabit. Because the environment he outlines is the absolute definition of a cosmic grand design.
There's nothing vague about it.
Nothing. It is rigid, it is hierarchical.
Yeah.
And the sheer scale of the power being contained within these structures is, well, it's lethal to anything not specifically engineered to withstand it.
Lethal. Just think about that. So think of this deep dive less like reading a religious text and more like, I don't know, reviewing the architectural blueprints of the universe.
Right, complete with its ultimate penthouse, its back-end server rooms.
And its maximum security containment zones.
Exactly.
But before we actually unfurl these blueprints, I feel like we need to understand the provenance of the ink, so to speak. Because this text, the complete Book of Enoch, it didn't just casually survive history.
Oh no. It has an incredibly turbulent past. The history of one Enoch, or Ethiopian Enoch, is almost as dramatic as the visions it contains.
Right.
Because this was a text deeply cherished by early Jewish and Christian communities. I mean, we found multiple fragments of it among the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Which is huge. That means it was being actively read, copied, and studied way before the time of Jesus.
Exactly. It shaped the worldview of an entire era.
Which, naturally raises the question for you listening.
Yeah.
If it was so foundational, why isn't it sitting in the standard biblical canon today?
Right. Why does it feel so hidden?
Yeah. Why does the name Enoch carry this aura of forbidden esoteric knowledge? It feels like an ancient secret rather than like mainstream theology.
Well, that aura of the forbidden is entirely intentional because it was actively suppressed.
Suppressed by who? Exactly.
Basically, as the early church solidified its power and its official theology in the first few centuries, the leadership began to view Enoch with intense disfavor.
Because it was just too out there.
Because it's wildly explicit. I mean, it details the exact names, ranks, and specific sins of fallen angels. It provides a mechanistic view of the cosmos that leaves very little room for the vague mysteries that theologians often prefer to, manage.
Right. They want to be the gatekeepers of the mystery.
Exactly. Enoch was too strange, too vivid, and it presented a universe that was far too dangerously tangible.
So the authorities just clamped down. They realized that a text detailing exactly how angels operate, how they can physically interact with humanity,
And how the gears of the universe turn.
yeah, that was a threat to their streamlined, sanitized version of faith.
Precisely. I mean, church fathers like Philastrius openly condemned it as heresy by the late 4th century. Rabbis literally pronounced curses on those who dared to read it.
Curses! That's how much they wanted it gone.
The goal was to erase it completely from the intellectual landscape of the Western world.
And they largely succeeded. For 1,000 years, the Book of Enoch was considered lost.
Just a ghost text.
Yeah.
Right? Referenced only in the margins of other ancient writings.
Yeah.
Banned, cursed, and buried.
Buried until 1773, which is when rumors of a surviving copy drew a Scottish explorer named James Bruce to the distant highlands of Ethiopia.
Yeah, and the Ethiopic church is so interesting here. Because they were isolated from the theological purges of Europe and the Mediterranean, they had preserved it completely intact.
Wow.
They held it in the same regard as the rest of their scriptures. So Bruce managed to secure 3 copies, brought them back to Europe, and gave the modern world its first complete look at the forbidden mechanics of Enoch's universe.
It is honestly a miracle of historical preservation. And okay, when you finally open this book, the very first thing that hits you is the sheer scale of the visuals.
It's overwhelming.
Because before we can even touch on the cosmic war or the fallen angels and all that corruption of humanity, we first have to understand the seat of ultimate power, the control room.
Right, we have to look at Enoch's ascent into the highest heavens to see what the dwelling place of God actually looks like.
And how he describes it in such painstaking detail. Because Enoch doesn't experience a vague, floating ascension, does he?
No, not at all. He gives us the actual floor plans of an incomprehensible fortress.
So he is taken up, and he doesn't arrive at, like, a pearly gate. He approaches a wall, a massive wall built entirely of crystals.
And this isn't some passive, beautiful structure. This crystal wall is entirely surrounded by tongues of fire.
Just imagine the physics of that for a second. Crystalline structures enveloped in raging flames.
And the immediate sensory impact on Enoch is absolute terror. The text explicitly states the vision began to affright him.
I mean, makes sense. He's a biological entity confronting a realm of pure, hostile energy.
Exactly, and he actually pushes through the tongues of fire.
Which is just an insane detail, by the way, just casually walking through a wall of flames.
Right, and he draws near to what he calls a large house, which is also built of crystals. This is where he starts giving us the interior design.
Yeah, he says the walls and the floor are a tessellated floor made of crystals.
And the term tessellation is vital here. He isn't describing a smooth, continuous sheet of glass. A tessellated floor is a mosaic.
Like interlocking geometric patterns.
Yes, a complex interlocking geometric pattern of individual crystalline structures forming the groundwork of the realm. It implies intelligent design on a microscopic fractal level.
Wow. And then he looks up, and the ceiling isn't plaster, and it isn't an open sky. He calls it the path of the stars and the lightnings.
Between these celestial phenomena, he actually sees fiery cherubim flying. And then he drops this incredibly cryptic line. He says, "Their heaven was water."
That line always gets me. Their heaven was water. What does that even mean in this context?
It suggests a layered dimensional reality that completely defies our understanding of gravity and states of matter. Above this fiery crystalline ceiling, there is a celestial ocean, a firmament of water.
So Enoch is standing in a space where the fundamental volatile elements of creation like fire, crystal, water, and lightning are all existing simultaneously in their purest, most extreme forms.
Exactly. And the temperature of this room, Enoch explicitly points out the paradox. He says, it was hot as fire and cold as ice.
Hot as fire and cold as ice. And he also notes there are no delights of life here. Like no soft couches, no gentle breezes, just this overwhelming paradoxical extreme of temperature.
Because biological life cannot exist in a state that is simultaneously the extreme of heat and the extreme of cold. The environment is actively rejecting his human senses.
So what happens to him?
Fear covers him. Trembling takes hold. And he physically collapses. He falls on his face, quaking. It is the physiological response to standing in the presence of unshielded, raw, elemental force.
But the architecture doesn't stop there, so he's on his face, terrified, crystal floor beneath him, lightning above him. He looks up and realizes he's only in the foyer.
Right, this is just the antechamber.
That is wild.
From inside this first house of crystal, he beholds a vision of a second house. And the text really struggles to contain the scale of it. Enoch says this second structure exponentially exceeds the first in splendor, magnificence, and sheer extent.
He tells us he can't even fully describe its extent. But he gives us the primary building material. The portals of this second house blaze with fire. And the floor. It's no longer a tessellated crystal mosaic. The floor of this second house is pure fire.
And above this floor of fire are lightnings and the path of the stars, with a ceiling that is also flaming fire. It is an enclosure of absolute combustion.
Absolute combustion. And inside this space, he sees a lofty throne.
The appearance of the throne itself is as crystal, but the wheels of the throne shine like the sun.
Wheels on the throne. We see this in other apocalyptic texts too, right? Like the Merkabah, the divine chariot.
Yes, exactly. It suggests that this throne isn't just a chair, it's a vehicle, it's a divine mechanism.
A machine of unimaginable power. And from underneath this crystal throne, streams of flaming fire flow out with such intensity that Enoch physically cannot look at it. The energy output is just blinding.
And seated on this throne is the entity Enoch calls the Great Glory, or the Head of Days.
And the visual description here is basically an assault on the eyes. He says, "His garments shine more brightly than the sun and are whiter than any snow."
It is a luminescence so absolute that the text makes a point to say that no angel, let alone any human flesh, can even look at his face. The magnificence and the glory act as an impenetrable visual shield.
That's a great way to put it, a visual shield.
Mm.
And surrounding him is a great fire. He's attended by 10,000 times 10,000 beings.
Right, which, mathematically speaking, is 100 million entities standing before him. Yet the text specifically notes, he needed no counselor.
He is the absolute singularity of wisdom and power. The entities aren't there to advise him, they are there to execute.
Exactly.
I want to pause here for a second and just challenge the logic of this setup because I think it breaks every comfortable assumption we have about the divine. I mean, think about it. If the great glory is all-powerful, omniscient, and needs no counselor, why is he sitting in a room made of literal fire on a throne with blazing wheels surrounded by 100 million entities?
That's a great question.
It sounds less like a place of peaceful omnipotence and more like, I don't know, the containment core of a cosmic nuclear reactor.
That reactor core analogy is probably the most accurate way to conceptualize this.
Right.
Because think about a physical nuclear power plant. The reactor core isn't designed for the comfort of the engineers, right?
Right, not at all.
It is an environment of immense lethal radiation and heat, designed specifically to generate and sustain the entire energy grid of a city. The heat, the blinding light, the streams of fire flowing from beneath the crystal throne, these aren't decorative elements meant to look intimidating.
They're functional.
Yes. They are the raw elemental forces of creation radiating outward from the source. To stand in that room is to stand at the epicenter of existence. The fire isn't a weapon. It is the exhaust of reality being generated.
The exhaust of reality. That is such a profound way to look at it. So Enoch isn't looking at a peaceful king in a castle. He is looking at the churning, volatile engine of the universe.
And that entirely changes how we have to view the angels. Because a reactor core, this intense an environment where the floor is fire and the walls are lightning, requires inhabitants capable of surviving it.
Right, you can't put a soft-winged cherub in a nuclear furnace.
Exactly the opposite. The architecture dictates the nature of the inhabitants. Enoch's description of the holy sons of God who manage this grand design is deeply unsettling compared to modern depictions.
What's the first thing he notices about them?
The very first thing he notes is how they interact with the environment. They aren't floating above the fiery floor, they're stepping directly on flames of fire.
Just casually walking on combustion.
Yes, their biology, their spiritual physics allows them to tread on it, and their garments are pure white, and their faces shine like snow.
The phrase, faces shone like snow, implies a stark, blinding purity to me.
It's an intense, cold brilliance that perfectly mirrors that hot as fire, cold as ice paradox of the throne room itself. These beings are a reflection of their environment. They are elemental constructs.
And Enoch identifies specific classes of beings surrounding the throne, right? The seraphim, the cherubim, and the Ophanim.
Yes. And he assigns them a terrifying, defining characteristic.
Yeah.
He says they are the ones who never sleep.
Insomniac entities constantly guarding the throne of his glory, which, again, brings up a fascinating theological friction point for me. Why does the omnipotent source of creation need guards?
Right. If no one can even look at the great glory without being destroyed, what could possibly threaten him?
Exactly.
Well, the answer is that they aren't guarding the throne from external threats. They are guarding the rest of the universe from the throne.
Oh, wow. They are the containment field.
Precisely. Just as a reactor requires constant sleepless monitoring to ensure the energy doesn't breach containment and vaporize the facility, these entities are regulating the flow of divine energy. They never sleep, because the output of creation never ceases.
That makes so much sense. They are the cosmic technicians keeping the universe from melting down. And within this vast host of 100 million angels, Enoch introduces us to the ultimate cosmic lieutenants.
The four highest-ranking executives in this grand design, he calls them the four presences, or the archangels.
Yeah, Enoch hears four distinct voices, uttering praises and interceding for the earth. And the angel of peace who is guiding Enoch identifies these four voices, giving us a clear breakdown of the cosmic hierarchy and their specific operational portfolios. Let's go through them. The first is Michael.
Right, Michael. He's described as the merciful and long-suffering. He's the stabilizing force, the one blessing the Lord of Spirits.
Then we have Raphael. His portfolio is highly specific, almost biological. He is set over all the diseases and all the wounds of the children of men. He is the cosmic physician.
But again, a detail that makes you think, if heaven is perfect, why is there a designated archangel for disease and wounds?
Good point.
It implies that entropy and suffering are baked into the system of the physical universe from the beginning, requiring a high-level manager to mitigate them. The system anticipates failure and decay in the lower realms.
That's a huge shift from how we usually think about it.
Uh,
And the third voice belongs to Gabriel.
Yes, Gabriel. He is set over all the powers, over paradise, and very specifically, over the serpents. Gabriel represents strength and authority over potent, potentially dangerous forces. He is the warden of the most critical zones and the most dangerous creatures.
And then the fourth voice. This is a name completely absent from mainstream modern angelic lore. Phanuel.
Phanuel's job is arguably the most legally complex. He is set over the repentance unto hope of those who inherit eternal life.
But more than that, Enoch hears Phanuel's voice actively fending off the Satans, plural.
Right. He forbids them from coming before the Lord of Spirits to accuse those who dwell on the earth. He is essentially the lead defense attorney of humanity.
The text actually frames the divine court as a literal court of law. There are prosecuting entities, the Satans acting as an adversarial office rather than, a single red guy with a pitchfork.
Yeah, they're trying to present evidence of human corruption, and Phanuel is running legal interference. It's a highly structured, adversarial justice system operating at the highest level of reality.
And alongside the four presences, standing with the head of days, Enoch sees another distinct figure. A being whose countenance had the appearance of a man, but whose face was full of graciousness, like one of the holy angels.
The text identifies this figure as the Son of Man, or the Elect One. This is a massive point of study because of the implications for later religious traditions. This figure possesses perfect righteousness. He is the one who reveals all the hidden treasures of the universe.
And he isn't just a passive observer either. The text prophesies that this Son of Man is the ultimate judge who will physically intervene in human history.
He will depose wicked earthly kings, raise the mighty from their seats, and loosen the reins of the strong. He is the active, forceful agent of justice in the material world.
When you step back and look at all of this, the insomniac guards with faces of snow walking on fire, the legal defense archangels, the deposition of kings, it really forces you to ask why we, as a modern culture, have completely domesticated the image of the angel.
Oh, absolutely.
We turn these terrifying elemental operators into, winged babies on Valentine's Day cards. Why do we do that?
I think we domesticate what terrifies us. A being of pure fire and blinding snow who never sleeps and administers absolute justice demands ultimate accountability. It reminds us of how fragile and small we really are.
So by softening the image of the angel, we domesticate the divine itself.
Exactly. We make the universe feel safe and manageable. But Enoch's vision doesn't allow for that delusion of safety. It demands an acknowledgement that the forces operating the physical laws of our reality are vastly beyond our control, our comprehension, and our comfort.
And those physical laws require constant management. Because remember, these angels aren't just standing around the crystal throne looking magnificent. Heaven, in Enoch's vision, isn't just a dwelling place. It is the control center for the physical universe. Enoch is literally taken on a tour of the mechanics of creation.
Yeah, the text moves from architecture and hierarchy into pure cosmic engineering here. Enoch is shown the literal store chambers of the natural elements.
He sees the physical locations where the winds are kept, right? Where the hail, the mist, and the clouds are stored before they are deployed.
Just imagine the mind of an ancient person trying to conceptualize the weather. Today, we understand barometric pressure and atmospheric currents, but Enoch's framework is mechanistic. He sees a cosmic warehouse. He sees exactly how the winds are divided to blow over the earth.
He maps out the pathways of the celestial bodies, too. He sees the chambers of the sun and the moon whence they proceed and whither they return.
He is shown 12 specific portals at the extreme ends of the earth where the stars and the sun go forth. The granularity of his description is staggering.
He notes that the heavens have specific doors that open for dew, rain, and winds, and the deployment of these elements isn't arbitrary, is it? It is a calibrated system of reward and punishment.
Right. Out of some portals, the winds blow for good, bringing prosperity and blessing to the earth. But out of other portals, the angels release winds that bring drought, desolation, and destruction. Everything is weighed in a righteous balance.
The text details the width of the celestial spaces, the exact day of their appearing. The angels physically unlock the chambers to let the rain out, and there is a specific, measured quantity for the rain.
It is a clockwork universe managed with absolute precision by entities executing the will of the great glory.
And his tour of the mechanics eventually takes him to the extreme geographic limits of the earth, to a place of incredible, curated majesty, the Garden of Righteousness, the earthly paradise.
But again, it's not just a nice park. It is a structural marvel. He describes a region anchored by 7 magnificent mountains made entirely of precious stones.
And he lists them, right?
Yeah, mountains of alabaster, pearl, jacinth, and sapphire. And the middle mountain reaches up to heaven like the throne of God itself.
And the vegetation he sees there is a sensory overload. This is a botanical vault of the most valuable resources in the ancient world. He lists highly specific, intensely aromatic trees.
Cinnamon, mastic, almond, aloe, and trees that literally drip nectar.
Drip nectar. The fragrance is described as overwhelming. And amongst these aromatic trees is the focal point of the garden, the tree of wisdom, also known as the tree of knowledge.
The very tree that Adam and Eve ate from. For centuries, Western art has depicted this as an apple tree. But Enoch gives us its actual, bizarre physical description.
Yes, he says it has the height of a strangler fig. Now, if you've ever seen a strangler fig, they are massive, sprawling, canopy-creating giants with thick, intertwining root systems.
But he says its leaves are like the carob tree, which has these small, dense, compound leaves, and its fruit resembles clusters of grapes or the dates of a palm.
And its fragrance penetrates from afar. It is designed to be deeply attractive, but it's this bizarre hybrid of species.
Raphael, the archangel of healing, is guiding him here and confirms its identity directly. He says, "This is the tree of wisdom, of which thy father old and thy aged mother have eaten, and they learned wisdom, and their eyes were opened."
It is the ultimate nexus of earthly beauty and dangerous forbidden knowledge. So if we tie these metaphors together for you listening, if the fiery, tessellated crystal throne room is the CEO's office and the archangels are the executive board, then these portals, these wind warehouses, and this highly curated botanical garden are the back-end server rooms of reality.
Exactly. Enoch isn't experiencing abstract magic. He's reviewing the mechanical, operational blueprint of how weather, time, biology, and knowledge actually function. It is a perfectly engineered closed-loop system.
A perfectly engineered system that was about to suffer a catastrophic world-ending glitch because the system relied on the obedience of its operators, and the managers of creation went rogue.
Which brings us to the pivot point of the entire text, the narrative that made the Book of Enoch so wildly controversial and led to its banning. We transition from the absolute, breathtaking order of heaven to the ultimate cosmic treason.
The rebellion of the Watchers.
The inciting incident is laid out with stark clarity. 200 angels, referred to in the text as watchers, or the children of the heaven, look down from their stations, and they see the beautiful and comely daughters of men.
And they experience lust, a biological, fleshly desire, completely alien to their celestial nature.
And it isn't just a fleeting thought. They don't just individually succumb to temptation. They organize a conspiracy.
They have a leader, Semjaza, who fully comprehends the gravity of what they're about to do. He looks at his 199 subordinates and says, "I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin."
Semjaza knows that abandoning their post to interbreed with humanity is a crime of cosmic proportions, so they unionize their rebellion.
They unionize their rebellion?
Yeah, do. They all swear a solemn oath and bind themselves by mutual imprecations, a shared dark curse, to follow through with the plan. If one falls, they all fall.
And they physically descend on the summit of Mount Hermon, which is a real geographical location, by the way, to enact this treason. 200 managers of reality abandoning the crystal server rooms to experience the flesh.
And the fallout is immediate. And it is devastating. Because the Watchers don't just interbreed with humanity. They leak classified, heavenly secrets.
This is corporate espionage on a universal scale.
This is the core tragedy of the text. The Watchers introduce humanity to the secrets of the universe,
Right.
bypassing our natural, spiritual, and intellectual evolution. Azazel, one of the primary leaders alongside Semjaza, becomes the Prometheus figure of this nightmare.
What exactly does he teach them?
He teaches men metallurgy. He teaches them to extract metals from the earth to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He introduces the technology of warfare.
But Azazel doesn't stop at weapons, does he? The text pairs warfare with vanity.
Right. He teaches humanity the use of antimony, the beautifying of the eyelids with cosmetics, and the use of costly stones and coloring tinctures. He teaches them how to alter their natural appearance to seduce and manipulate.
Meanwhile, Semjaza teaches enchantments and root cuttings, which is basically the manipulation of biology and pharmacology. Other Watchers teach astrology, the reading of the constellations, the knowledge of the clouds, and the signs of the sun and moon.
It is the wholesale transfer of divine science to a primitive species. And the text poses a brutal lesson here. When advanced technology, whether it's the technology of mass slaughter, the technology of vanity and seduction, or the manipulation of nature, is handed to a species that lacks the moral framework to manage it, the inevitable result is self-destruction.
The Watchers gave a toddler a loaded handgun, and the world immediately filled with blood and unrighteousness. And alongside this illicit knowledge comes a biological horror that completely breaks the ecosystem. The human women become pregnant by the Watchers.
The offspring of this unholy union are the Nephilim, the giants.
And the text does not hold back on their scale. It says they grew to a height of 3,000 ells.
We need to pause and establish the mathematics of that measurement to understand the terror of this text. An ell is an ancient measurement, roughly equivalent to 18 inches, the length of a man's arm from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger.
Okay, so let's do the math. 3,000 ells is 4,500 feet.
Exactly.
We are talking about biological entities that are nearly a mile tall. These aren't just big men. These are skyscraper-sized, kaiju-level horrors walking the ancient Earth. Just imagine the caloric intake required to sustain a 4,500-foot-tall humanoid.
The ecological impact is catastrophic. The text says the giants consume all the acquisitions of men. They eat every crop, every stored grain, everything humanity can produce. The humans literally slave away trying to feed these abominations, but it's never enough.
And when men can no longer sustain them, what do? The giants turn their insatiable hunger against humanity itself. They begin to devour mankind.
And it devolves even further from there. The giants begin to sin against the birds, the beasts, the reptiles, and the fish. They consume the entire animal kingdom.
Finally, in a state of absolute maddening starvation, they start devouring one another's flesh and drinking the blood. It is a total ecological, biological, and moral collapse of the grand design.
The earth itself literally lays accusation against these lawless ones. The blood crying out from the ground reaches the ears of the 4 archangels in the crystal throne room.
Treason of this magnitude, the near extinction of humanity and the corruption of the physical world, it demands a response from the great glory. And the response requires a prison just as intense, just as structurally complex and paradoxically engineered as the Crystal Palace of Heaven.
Which brings us to Enoch's terrifying visions of punishment. The architecture of hell, the abyss, and the origin of demonic forms.
The Lord of Spirits issues the command, and the archangels deploy. Raphael is given a highly specific, brutal set of orders.
He is told to bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into the darkness, make an opening in the desert of Judea, place rough and jagged rocks upon him, and cover his face so he may not see light.
So, Azazel is buried alive under the earth, held in solitary confinement until the day of the great judgment when he will be cast into the fire.
And Enoch is actually given a tour of these containment zones. He is taken to the underworld, and what he sees completely shatters the idea of hell as just one big, chaotic, fiery pit.
Right. Hell in Enoch's vision is highly compartmentalized. It is a cosmic supermax facility with different security levels for different types of cosmic criminals.
The first zone he describes is a chaotic, horrible void. He looks around and says there is no firmament of heaven above it and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There is no water, no birds. It is a true vacuum of creation and unplace.
And falling through this void, he sees massive, towering columns of heavenly fire. He asks his angelic guide what this place is, and Uriel tells him it is a prison specifically designed for the stars, the angels who transgressed.
Enoch sees 7 stars bound together like great burning mountains. Uriel explains, this has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. Even the celestial bodies that fail to follow the mechanical clockwork of the universe are imprisoned in this void.
Then he is shown a separate, specialized holding facility for Azazel and the rest of the Watcher hosts. Enoch is brought to a deep valley of burning fire, and in this valley he witnesses a terrifying industrial operation.
He sees angels actively forging and preparing iron chains of immeasurable weight.
The sensory details here shift from the clean, cold brilliance of heaven to heavy, oppressive industry. He smells sulfur and fiery molten metal permeating the valley. These chains are being manufactured specifically to bind the fallen hosts and cast them into the abyss of complete condemnation.
But the architecture of the afterlife must also account for humanity. The human souls whose bodies were destroyed by the giants or the subsequent flood need a holding area pending the final judgment.
And Enoch is shown a massive mountain of hard rock. Inside this mountain are 4 deep, wide, incredibly smooth, and completely dark hollow places. I love that detail. Incredibly smooth. It implies they were artificially carved, specifically bored out of the rock for this exact purpose.
Ravel explains that these hollow places were created to assemble the spirits of the souls of the dead, and they're strictly segregated.
There is a division made for the spirits of the righteous, which contains a bright spring of water, providing relief and comfort.
But the sinners, those who were complicit in the corruption of the earth, are set apart in a different hollow, existing in a state of great pain and darkness, separated by their transgressions while they await the final court date.
So you have the heavy iron chains for the Watcher generals, the chaotic void for the disobedient stars, the smooth hollows for human souls, but that leaves a massive, skyscraper-sized loose end. What about the giants?
This is where the text introduces its most fascinating and horrifying theological loophole. The Watchers, realizing they are doomed, beg the archangels to petition God on behalf of their children. They want the giants to have eternal life.
But the Great Glory denies this petition. He limits the physical lifespan of the giants to 500 years and declares a brutal psychological punishment for the Watchers. They are forced to watch as their beloved giant children turn on one another and slaughter each other in battle.
The Watchers witness the death of their own bloodline before being chained in the Valley of Fire. But the death of the giants' physical bodies creates a cosmic anomaly.
Because the giants are half angel and half human.
Right. They are an unauthorized hybrid species.
Yeah.
The smooth, hollow places in the mountain of rock were designed for human souls. The fiery abysses were designed for angelic spirits. The giants have no designated place in the architecture of the afterlife. They are system errors.
The text explicitly lays out the consequence of this error. It says, "And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling."
When those 4,500-foot bodies die, the spirits inside them are trapped on the physical plane. They become disembodied entities. They are the origin of demons in this theological framework.
They roam the earth endlessly. The text says they afflict, oppress, and cause trouble. And in a cruel twist of irony, though they no longer have physical bodies, they still experience the phantom sensations of their endless earthly gluttony.
They take no food, but they constantly hunger and thirst. They are driven by an insatiable, frustrated appetite.
And if we look at the Testament of Solomon, which is a related ancient text included in our source material, we see exactly what these roaming, frustrated spirits become over the centuries. We see how far they have devolved from the majestic, terrifying purity of their fathers.
The Watchers had faces shining like snow. They walked on the flames of heaven. Look at what their children become. The Testament of Solomon catalogs Solomon's interactions with these entities, and the imagery is completely unhinged.
It is bizarre, grotesque, and pathetic.
They have lost all their celestial geometry and beauty. Solomon encounters a demon named Onoskelis, who appears as a shape-shifting woman with the legs of a mule who strangles men in the night.
He meets a spirit that manifests as a 3-headed dragon that specifically targets and blinds children. He summons a spirit in a woman's form that has a head, but no limbs, and disheveled dragon hair flowing all around her.
The degradation reaches its peak when Solomon commands the 36 spirits of the Decans, the world rulers of darkness, to present themselves. And they appear before him as a chaotic mockery of creation. They have the bodies of men, but the heads of dogs, asses, oxen, and birds.
It's the ultimate cosmic devolution. They are the offspring of beings who stood in the crystal reactor core of the universe, and they have been reduced to chaotic, animalistic amalgamations. They skulk in the shadows, causing diseases, stealing away men's minds, and making bones ache.
They are the radioactive waste of the Watchers' rebellion. the unauthorized byproducts of a massive violation of cosmic law, leaking into the physical world and causing spiritual sickness wherever they go.
That brings all of this together perfectly. Hell, and Enoch's vision isn't just a generic pit of fire meant to scare people into behaving. It's a highly compartmentalized, meticulously engineered supermax containment facility.
You have the smooth, hollow rocks organizing the human souls, the heavy iron chains restraining the Watcher executive,
The chaotic void holding the stars that fell out of orbit.
and the roaming surface of the Earth acting as a quarantine zone for the disembodied radioactive waste of the giants. Every single entity is accounted for, ensuring the core reactor can continue to operate without melting down the universe.
The level of detail Enoch provides creates a breathtakingly comprehensive vision of reality. He gives the ancient reader a unified field theory of their existence.
It accounts for the exact mechanics of the weather, the pathways of the stars, the historical origin of metallurgy and cosmetics, the source of human sickness and demonic oppression, and the specific geography of the afterlife.
It is a complete, unbreakable grand design where every action has an equal, opposite, and highly calibrated consequence. What a massive scale we've explored today. Just think about the journey we've taken through these blueprints for you, listening.
It's a lot to take in.
We started on a tessellated crystal floor, staring into a fiery, paradoxical throne room that defied human biology. I walked through the mechanical storehouses where the winds are locked away, and stood under the towering canopy of the aromatic tree of wisdom.
We witnessed the bloody, treasonous descent of 200 angels onto Mount Hermon, the terrifying reign of mile-high giants, and finally descended into the bizarre industrial prisons designed to contain the fallout. It is an overwhelming amount of cosmic data.
But there is one final, lingering anomaly drawn directly from the traditions surrounding this text that we must consider before we close the blueprints. The source material reminds us of a unique structural detail regarding Enoch himself. According to the text and the traditions that followed it, Enoch never actually died.
He didn't go to the smooth, hollow places in the mountain of rock.
No. The text says his spirit was translated into the heavens. He was taken up alive, bypassing the containment zones of death.
And the sources hint at a powerful spiritual prophecy, drawing from later texts like the book of Revelation, chapter 11. Revelation speaks of two mysterious witnesses who will return to the earth in the last days to reprimand the world and testify to the truth. Ancient traditions strongly hold that Enoch, the man who saw the blueprints, is one of those witnesses. He is still out there, living in the kingdom of heaven, waiting to return.
Which leaves you, the listener, with this final thought to ponder as you step back into your normal daily routine. Think about the world Enoch left behind and the world he would be returning to. If Enoch truly saw the fundamental blueprints of the universe, the hidden structures of space, the strict containment of raw energies, the multidimensional beings walking on fire to keep reality intact, and the catastrophic consequences of unauthorized technology in the hands of unready humans, what exactly will he have to say about our modern world?
Yeah, think about what we do now.
We have manipulated the elements. We have literally split the atom. We sit constantly staring at glowing screens powered by unseen, captured energies. We alter our faces, our bodies, and our atmosphere with the very technologies Azazel was chained in darkness for teaching. When you walk outside tonight and you look up at the stars, or you feel a sudden violent change in the wind, ask yourself, are you just feeling a shift in barometric pressure? Or are you witnessing the precise opening of one of Enoch's ancient invisible portals? And if the architect truly does return, will he recognize what we've built? Or will he see us as the exact catastrophe he was warned about?